We'll continue our driver media availabilities for NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. We're joined now by the driver of the number 10 Nature's Bakery Chevrolet for Stewart Haas Racing, Danica Patrick. Danica, before we get into your very deep familiarity with this speedway, why don't you tell us a little bit about the helmet there on the podium with you?
Oh yeah. So I've been racing for 25 years, and it was brought to my attention this year by Troy Lee Designs that we've been working together for 20 years. They've been painting my helmet for 20 years. So I said it'd be really cool if we did a special paint out, and we thought Indy would be the perfect place to have that, given the fact that I have had so much history here too. So yeah, Troy just drew it up, and I said, draw whatever you want, and it's all good for me because it's more about the fact that I've been letting, they've been doing my helmet for 20 years, not about what I want. So this was Troy just, letting his mind wander. So anyway, it's an honor, and it's really cool that I've just had relationships for that long. I think that's a pretty impressive amount of time to work with anyone or anything. So 20 years.
Excellent. Well, tell us a little bit about your expectations for tomorrow. Really good speed in second practice yesterday.
Thanks. For one lap, I went really fast yesterday. We struggled for sure, just getting comfortable on the way in especially. Loose in, tight off, like a nightmare around this track. So it was much better in qualifying trim, and Billy, my crew chief, had made some changes on top of our normal offset for qualifying that I think was a really good direction. And when we met with all the drivers after practice was over with, we all kind of agreed that that was the right direction. So made us feel really comfortable to not only believe in that, keep that for qualifying for sure, but also then to be confident to keep that style of change for the race as well. So hopefully our race car will be a little bit better than it was in practice, because it definitely was very difficult to drive, very unpredictable and inconsistent, and just really hard to drive hard. And so yeah, because I love Indy, and I really want to have a good day, and the first step of that is qualifying today. So hopefully that goes as well as it did yesterday, if not better.
We'll open up for questions now. If you raise your hand, we'll go to Zach right here. We'll get a microphone to you, Zach.
Zach Catan's ready front stretch. I believe you said Zach Catan's ready front stretch.
Okay. Thanks.
I believe you said the other two times you changed your helmet was Paul Tracy and Dan Weldon. So explain those two circumstances, and why have you had the same helmet for so long?
Well, the back of it actually does say it only took 20 years and 314 races to try something new. Thanks for all the fast times and always making us look cool. Yeah, so the first time they started painting it, I looked at other helmets, and I mean, of course, I'm young. I mean, I was super young, and Paul Tracy's looked really cool. So I'm pretty sure that they ended up painting it very much like Paul Tracy's. So at that point in time, I was like, gonna have to probably make it a little bit more original and make it my own. So first was to change it to look like something different, and then the other time was for Dan Weldon. When he passed away, I had a helmet painted out, which Troy was a big part of, and really helped me come up with the things. But it had, a special, it had the Union Jack British flag. It had Dan Weldon, like, shoes hanging off of his name, because he was always wearing white shoes. And so it was specially done up for him, and then we auctioned it off to give money back to his family, because he has 2 kids. So that was the only other time I'd ever changed my helmet, which is why Troy, of course, said it only took 20 years and 314 races to try something new. So I'm a bit of a creature of habit, and I think that the open wheel world is more like that, I think, especially more than stock car racing, because you can see our helmet, and so you can tell who's in the car based on the helmet. That's usually how I would, because even, like, let's take for instance, because we're here, the Speedway, sometimes other drivers would hop in other people's cars, and you can tell who's in it based on the helmet. So so I've always just stuck with it because it's identifiable, it's always the same, it's me. Even though you can't see it in a stock car as well, it just is a mentality for me. And over the years, anybody who offered to pay me to change my helmet, it was always a no, because it's like the only thing I have. So that I can choose to make look just like I want it to look. Yeah, it's just, I'm just a bit of a creature of habit with that stuff. Even with my race shoes and things like that, I'm super slow to transition to new designs and new technologies. So I ran the, double strap, high top racing shoes for a very long time before I went to one strap, and I did try some of the one-piece leather shoes. That didn't work out for me either. So again, just a real creature of habit. I even wear the same stuff all year. I mean, I could probably use 2 pairs of race shoes a year, although they're white now, so it's a lot more difficult. But yeah, just a creature of habit.
We'll go over here to Brant and then to Holly.
I don't know if you guys can see me. Hi.
And Brant James, USA Today Sports. As someone who's seen Tony's career from a lot of different vantage points before your career and doing, what's it been like to sort of have an inside seat for his last season, presumably the last run here? And is he staying as calm and collected as he's trying to project to us?
Well, I don't know how he's been exactly to you guys, but he does seem really, really cool and calm. I mean, he seems very generally happy, and I can only imagine if, being in his shoes and having the success that he's had and having the years of struggle, both with on and off track things over the last few years, to win and have a shot at a championship in your last season, coming off of a season that you didn't even start on time. Like, he didn't even start the year this year. So, something like that had to happen if he was going to make it in, because he wasn't racing the whole season. Has to be just a humongous relief for him. And like I told him after he won, that watching him work when he puts his mind to something is really cool. And I think his last championship is a great example of that, where he was not even very high on his season until he made it into the chase, and then he made it into the chase and won 5 out of 10 races and the championship. So it's just really cool what he does when he puts his mind to something. So it'll be interesting to see how the chase goes, and obviously he's been a lot faster lately, so it's good to see. He's a good person. He deserves it. He's had a great career, and he deserves to go out with happy memories instead of get me out of here,
We'll go to your left, Danica, to Holly.
Hi, Danica. Holly Kane, NASCAR.com. I know every year we ask you about racing at Indianapolis and your great history that you've had here. But is there something to be said for maybe this place giving you a warmer feeling maybe than a lot of the other NASCAR venues? Because, most of the tracks you haven't doubled up, having raced in an Indy car and also in a stock car. But what is the feeling that you kind of sense here from the reception you get, from the people? Is there a difference?
Well, I mean, I think that anytime you go to a hometown city for a race, like obviously IndyCar's hometown city is Indianapolis, there's a certain amount of backing and interest and excitement. Also, having a race with such history, more history than any other race out there, over 100 years. There's a legacy there. There's so much prestige, and I've learned in my older age that history is what makes things special. So, do I think it's just Indy? I think it is, because that is what created what it is today. It's all works hand in hand with it being a special track and having special races over the 100 years and making and breaking careers, and which I feel like I'm product of the Indy 500 and and the power of it and the awareness of the race. So yeah, I mean, I think that it is Indy, but it's also just the people and the history that really create the backbone of what makes this place special and what makes that warm feeling that you talk about when I come in. Never mind the fact that when I was driving out of the track last night with Ricky and telling him about how I said I wonder how many times I've driven in and out of this track, especially at night, because you just go drive to dinner or drive to an event or whatever it is that you had to do, and that's just not what you ever do barely at any other track. But here at Indy, you do, so because you're here for so long. And we just talked about how cool it was that when it used to be 3 weeks and it used to be a long time here, and how we both talked about it being really neat that a race can have that much, that length of time behind it because, and have a routine almost, because so many events we just blow in, blow out, and it's over. So even when I was in IndyCar and they shortened the schedule up and it wasn't as long, I mean, I didn't like that. I liked the long time here. I also think all that practice makes for great racing too, because you work on your car to make it better. I mean, everybody is, and so the better your car is, the better the racing gets. So, so yeah, it's a special place for a lot of reasons.
Do you feel it when you come here? I mean,
Oh, yeah, I totally feel it. I think that I think it's probably undeniable on some level, even just driving back into the track and seeing the pagoda all lit up, which is what I love seeing when I come in through the Turn 2 tunnel. Seeing that and yeah, just having spent so much time here, I feel it, and having great memories. I mean, that always helps.
We'll stay in the back left over here, then we'll come up front to Kurt. Go ahead, Michael.
Hi, Danica. Michael Knight with the Arizona Republic. After Pocono, most of the tracks you'll be going to for the second time this season, based on the way the car setup was at the first time at these tracks, and just you're getting more acclimated to the current rules package, et cetera, are there any tracks in the second half of the season that you might be more optimistic about than others?
Yeah, that's a good question. I haven't sat and thought about if there's specific tracks that I'm excited about going back to, but I think given the fact that Billy, just started as my crew chief, literally the first day we worked together was at Daytona on track for the Daytona 500 was the first day we ever communicated. As far as communicated driver crew chief wise, of course I had talked to him many times before that and seen him many times at the race shop. But I think that second time back will hopefully be a big help for us. And just like you said, having honed in more on the rules package, I think that it doesn't ignore the fact that as a team you still have to work incredibly hard to not only keep up, but then of course, I mean, to get ahead is a relentless amount of work during the season. That's, the stage is set in the off season, and then during the season, you work really, really hard to stay ahead or try and catch up your very best. So there's a lot of work that needs to go into it as well. So just going back for a second time doesn't mean that it's just going to be better because other things are static or the same. It's a work in progress. I mean, there's constant car revisions that get done and updates to cars that get done throughout the season every single week. That work is done in the wind tunnel. So things are very evolving from a car perspective. But there's a lot of things that go into the race other than just the car. And so having a setup when you first start the weekend off that is closer than when you went there the first time is a great thing. We don't really get that many shots at making the car that much better when we get there. It's more about optimizing what you have. So hopefully that'll be a good second half of the season for us to have that foundation established between rules, crew chief, me, and I know that none of us are happy running 20th. I'm not. It's miserable. So we want to do better.
Could you name a track or two or three where you might think you'd be more optimistic than others?
I'm trying to think of some disasters this year. I mean, I always do like going to Pocono. I mean, Pocono is always a track I feel like that while I haven't had great finishes, I feel like I like it. I mean, I had 4 cracked rotors racing there last time and still managed I don't know where I finished, 18th, 19th, 17th, somewhere around 20th most all year. So I look forward to going back there. I think our short track stuff is where I hope that there's the most improvement because I really do love the short tracks and we've been way off. Even last weekend at Loudon, I mean, that was a big point is like, why are we in left field on short tracks? I don't understand it. So hopefully having been to those short tracks the first time around, the second time will be easier. I mean, we found ourselves in a whole different area to make me comfortable and get me going faster at all the short tracks this year. It's been a little bit of a point of confusion. So hopefully that's better.
Danica, we'll come to your front right here to Kurt and then finish up with Zach.
Kurt Cabin, Indianapolis Star. Your sample size now in this event is big enough to draw some conclusions?
Is my sample
Well,
size?
I think this is your 4th year in this event.
Oh, I thought we were talking about clothes.
Oh, I see.
Sample sizes are 2s and size 7 shoes, I believe.
Okay, don't guess mine. So,
I don't know what boys' sample size are. You might be just right.
So, what kind of conclusions would you draw about your stock car racing at this venue? Because you've been magical in an Indy car here, but it hasn't. I don't know. What conclusions do you draw from?
Well, I remember last year was, it turned out to be an absolute meltdown disaster by the end of the race. I think I'd worked my way up to somewhere around maybe 6th or something like that. And I was pitiful on the restarts. And God, I ended up finishing like 25th or something like that. I mean, there was just a bunch of restarts at the end, and every one of them was horrible. So it was actually that point in time last year that I had to cry it out and reestablish how I was going to figure out these restarts. And they have, knock on wood, maybe it's just Indy, I don't know, but we'll see tomorrow. But have been much better since then. And every now and again, of course, there's a rough one, but it's not, it's by no means a major concern for me anymore. So I feel like I learned a lot. I pushed myself to get better in that area. But it makes me remember that I was running really well at the end of the race here. And I think another time I was here, I was running around 12th, 11th, 10th, somewhere around there, and something happened with the transmission, and we didn't finish. Another time here, I had an oil leak that lasted the entire race, and I'm sure made everybody else's corners miserable behind me. So that was a bad race. So what I'm saying is that I don't think they all have been really bad, but I think it's tough for me. I miss running in the top 5. Of course I do. That's especially for casual fans. It's very easy to understand. But a top 5 for me now is a top 15 right now. And it's just different. Stock cars are just, there's so many more cars. There's so much that goes into it, and there's so many of these guys that have just been at it for so long. And especially with my lack of stock car experience before I jumped into it, I didn't race dirt. I didn't start off in late models and things like that and work my way up. So the car itself is challenging. So, it's a work in progress. And, I think that at any point in time when everything is right, it can be a breakthrough and it can be a great result. And by great, it's a top 10, maybe a top 5. But it's just there's a lot of variance between car to car and team to team throughout the garage, and I think looking back, Indy cars were a lot more similar. And I also, I know I drive for a great team now, but I did drive for really good teams in IndyCar, and so hopefully that's a thought of the past, and I have a great day tomorrow and a great qualifying today, and make some more good memories at Indy.
We'll finish up right here to your right with Zach.
Zach Worrell, Butler University. Back a few years ago when the track started the renovations, there was talk of putting the apron back in the corners. I was wondering, do you think that would be beneficial for this race, for the Brickyard 400, and your thoughts on it?
Oh, I didn't know that. Did anybody know that? That they were thinking about putting aprons back in? Oh. Oh. I don't know. Usually there's marbles where people don't run, so I don't know. Maybe it would help. I do think the Indy cars have better time passing here than stock cars. It is much harder for us for some reason. Closing rates are a lot slower in a stock car than an Indy car, so when someone is 5 back in a stock car, that's not that far, but in an Indy car, you can be 10 back and still get a run on somebody. I think I've always felt too like, I think for stock cars, the slow flat tracks are good, and high banked fast tracks are the other side of good for us. And Indy cars I don't think Indy cars and stock cars have ever been paralleled in what makes good racing. At least not exactly. So, I don't know. those aren't my decisions. What do I think of an apron? I never ran it before, but I would be much more happy to drive over an apron in a stock car than an Indy car, so bring it on.
Danica, thank you. Before you go, we've got a quick presentation
There'll be
from
a
the
lot.
Speedway.
There would be probably a lot more accidents on the exit of turn 1 if there was an apron to drive on. Oh, you what?
Got a quick presentation for you from the Speedway.
Okay, I thought you said present.
Could be a present.
Yeah, I think I might know what it is. I'm not really sure it's a present.
I think it's more like a return.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll take you back to 2008, 8 years ago. You, Ryan Hunter-Ray, Elio Castroneves, Sarah Fisher, Ed Carpenter, and a few others had lent us a helmet for display at the fan zone. Due to some misfortune,
As in they were all stolen.
They were all stolen. That's correct. We have the opportunity now, thanks to the good fortune and help of a good Samaritan here in Speedway, to return that helmet to you today, which obviously is
Okay.
a cherished
Well,
item
let's
based
show
on
them
your
what my
helmet.
helmet always looks like then, in case they forgot. Yep, that's it for the last 20 years. Although I don't, it's not a bell anymore, but yeah, that's pretty much what it looked like that's what it looks like every weekend. Well, there you go. Now you get a comparison of what.
Danica, thanks a lot for joining us today, and good luck this
thank
weekend.
you. It's good to be back in Indy. Good to see some familiar faces, and thank you for returning my helmet. Now I have a good Speedway helmet if I'm back here in an open wheel car. I just need tear-offs. Thanks. Hey, look, I'm way too old to ever say never.